Recording in progress.
Well, good evening. This is a work session of the Greenbelt City Council. My name is Emmett Jordan. I'm the mayor.
Kristen Weaver, Mayor Pro Tem.
Silky Pope, Council.
Danielle McKinney, Council.
Jenny Pompey, Council Member.
Council member.
Rodney Roberts, City Council.
Okay, Council, information items for the end of the meeting. I've got three, I think.
I'll have one. I'll have one.
You got one? Mm-hmm. Okay. So tonight we're getting a quarterly update from the city manager. We have department heads and city staff here with us as well. And just in terms of providing a little context, we do hold these council work sessions on Mondays and Wednesdays occasionally, several times a month, to exchange information with community stakeholders, city staff, advisory boards, residents. No votes or formal actions are taken at the work sessions. Our work sessions and our meetings are open to the public, except for executive sessions as authorized by state law, so that residents and others can observe council's deliberations. We do strive to provide a reasonable opportunity for the public to voice opinions on matters being discussed. So we'll pause from time to time, probably every 20-25 minutes. We've got a lot to cover tonight. So I think that we'll be judicious as we pause, but there's a lot to cover, really. So during those times when we are open for comment, just if you're in the room, raise your hand. After being recognized, you can go to the podium. You need to state your name and where you live. We need that for the minutes. If you are watching on cable TV or on streaming on Facebook or YouTube, you can send us an email to questions@greenbeltmd.gov. And of course, if you're watching on Zoom, you can submit a question or comment using the Q&A tab on the bottom of your screen, or you can raise your virtual hand, and once again, you'll be recognized and you'll need to state your name and where you live for the minutes. So the public comment, the time limit is about 3 minutes. So without further ado, I'd like to dive right in because I do know that there's a lot to cover. And I appreciate all of your good work, Mr. Summerone. Why don't you go ahead and let's proceed.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. Mr. Mayor, I want to remind you that you said I have 3 hours. So
Two and a half.
Okay.
Did you promise that?
He promised me 3 hours, but I'll
Exactly.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you all again tonight. I'm joined by my wonderful team. As you know, I can't get anything done in the city without the wonderful team I have. So I'll introduce folks that are in the room. I'll start from my left. We've got Acting Director Brian Kennel, Acting Director for IT Department Brian Kennel, Police Chief Chief Bowers, Recreations Director Greg Varda, Assistant City Manager Tim George, constituent, also advisor at times, Michael Hartman. Our PIO officer, Chandra Andrews, DI officer, Tyra Smith, Planning and Community Development, Terry Ruby, HR Director, Dwayne Martinez, our Grants Coordinator, Carrie Yuri, I'm proud and excited as further my presentation to announce that our Director of Public Works, Brian Kim, is here. No stranger to you all anymore, John Mason, our Economic Development Manager, and our City Treasurer, Bertha Gaiman.
What a dynamic group of people, just to have all of this brain power right here in this one room at one time. It's overwhelming.
At times it is. You know, I feel blessed that I have such a wonderful teams, but also intimidated because I got to do my homework. So I gotta show up prepared every time. And so,
Kidding aside, this is a dynamic group that we have here, and council has so much respect for our staff and for the department heads that actually do the work and carry out, the will of the people. So, thank you for all that you do. Let's move on.
okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll ask the team that when we get to their individual departments, for them to come up and join us at the table for the conversation. As I laid out my presentation previously, I'd like to start off with 3 areas of work. That is the progress and strategic advancements, communication, collaboration, and prioritization of projects and things I want you to be aware of, future developments or any project developments. So I'll start off with our progress and strategic advancements. We continue to operationalize the council's planning framework and align department objectives with that framework. I hope that by this meeting we would have a nice matrix to present, but we continue to work on that matrix and we'll be presenting that in the coming weeks. We are executing the 2025 budget, the goals and NBOs. Items that are significant importance from a strategic perspective is that we have completed the CBA negotiations and council have approved the contract. We set out an outline, a timeline, and objectives to get that work done by December, and we met that objective. The importance of is we value the work that our police officers do day in and day out. We understood the economic environment that we're operating and how competitive the space is, but more importantly, we wanted to pay fair wages and ensure that we are retaining top quality talent. And that's what we are accomplishing with that CBA. We've launched a feasibility study for the Armory redevelopment. Council has had a few discussions on the item. We hope to bring that back later in the spring with the concept plans. It is wonderful to see economic opportunities or funding opportunities for this project. Pikesville Armory received significant investment for the state for redevelopment. I think that is a recent example that we can look at of what's possible for our Armory. We have also launched the Strategic Marketing Economic Development Plan, which I'll remind council we had a couple of discussions on that as well. So we're heading in the right direction with that. I've tagged along with John on some of the interviews for that plan, and we are getting great feedback from our businesses on what opportunities they see and providing guidance for us on what are things that we should be focused on and to expand our tax base, expand our local economy. We've secured funding in the amount of $1.5 million for the aquatic center, the indoor pool deck repairs. Appreciate council's support on that. We also secured over $520,000 for Vision Plan Zero and the Hanover Parkway designs. The departments have started updating their retention schedules to meet the requirements with the Maryland State Archives. We have made significant progress. We're actually ahead of schedule on our recodification of the city code. It was estimated to be an 18-month project. We have completed the legal analysis. The legal team is now drafting the code and will present that to council. I've shared the legal analysis and the questions that the legal team had for us with council. So if you have any questions, happy to follow up on that, or we're planning to schedule a work session on the proposed code in March when the legal team has it ready. In active projects, we have numerous projects. Bertha, Tim, all the department directors, we've been meeting weekly and sometimes multiple times a week on the ARPA projects, and we have over 120 ARPA funded projects. Many have been completed, others are still underway, such as the EV infrastructure plan. Council approved the contracts to do the eight EV station installations at the library parking lot. And that project, we finalized the contracts. We're now moving into execution, securing materials and working through the permitting process. The chillers and boilers, Brian Kim is leading that effort, and we are hope to deliver on the timeline. There's a lot of prep work that's required for these projects. Terry Ruby continues working on the Pike pedestrian bicycle improvement project, bus stops. The chief and deputy chief have secured the radios, so we got the first batch of radios have been received. We're waiting on the second batch of radios. We're a bit ahead of the timeline than the county. The county was putting pressure on us to hurry up and make sure that we are securing the funding to modernize our radios. Now we got them, and now we got to wait for them to catch up. But we're ready. We're ready to modernize our radios with our radios the new radios are in, and they have new technology that allows tracking of the officers, encrypted communications, just a much better communication platform. On communication and collaboration, we've launched an RFP to secure a new website and a new digital platform for council meetings, documents, and videos. Just today, Chandra and the team, the efforts being led by Chandra, we finalized our preliminary options that we're going to survey council and the residents on what is the layout, what are the features that our community wants to see. I want to highlight that council requested that we reach out to the community, so we're putting together the survey and we'll have information on the Greenbelt News Review. However, I remind council that I do not believe that we will have a shortage of comments from our citizens on what should be on our website. So I look forward to that feedback. But we've selected 4 templates that we want to vet through with the community and with council and get the feedback on which direction to take with that website layout and design. We continue to reach a broader audience. Just in this quarter, we added 140 new subscribers, which is low compared to what we've been adding over the last 12 months. However, that brings our new total subscriber base to 19,821 email subscribers with an average, which is in a very impressive open rate of 55.56%. Our social media growth has continued to grow. We now have 10,746 followers. We continue strong engagement with constituents through the numerous events that we have, holiday events, the food distributions, the Shop with the Cops, where we purchase toys and clothing for 50 children and their families. Police, Recreation, and Fire hosted the 2nd annual youth basketball game, which many of councils were there. We were hoping some of you will get out there and shoot some 3-pointers.
Next time.
Next time.
Talk to my agent.
Okay, I will. We continue to work with constituents at Charleston North, Franklin Park, and multiple properties in Greenbelt Center. We hosted town halls. We hosted 1 town hall in the fire department services that was well attended. We also participated in the county hearing on fire services. We've launched our CRM system for economic development on the Salesforce platform. We hosted the District 22 legislative dinner and presentation, highlighting our role as a city as a leader among our peers. On that last item, it's heartwarming to hear the recognition from our elected officials, the delegates, to recognize how it's benefited the delegate and the Senate representatives to advocate for us better by having these joint events. That it helps them understand as a community we all need to go and ensure that we're working collaboratively to accomplish all of our needs. So I see that level of collaboration continue, especially in a constrained budget environment where we all need to be sensitive and mindful of the overall state budget constraints. Sorry, that was a bit coded, but we ask for a lot and we can't get everything. All right, prioritizing development with the fire and EMS services continue to be a challenge. However, just over the last quarter, we have received additional medical services. We have received a paramedic unit that's operating out of Greenbelt 24/7. That is an ambulance with all the paramedics, advanced life support, and we have a peak ambulance that operates from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Daily. I don't think that we would have been able to secure these resources if it wasn't for our relentless advocacy to ensure that our residents are protected. With that regard of fire services, we provided $100,000 in financial support to Berwyn Heights and Greenbelt Volunteer Fire Station for continuity and service, volunteer recruitment and retention. We have finalized the allocations of ARPA projects, and we prioritize the People First initiatives. Hearing the news, what's happening at the federal level with funding freezes and all kinds of challenges around equity programming, it reminds me how blessed we are that we were able to secure funding for food programs for the next 2 years with ARPA money. So we know that that's something that the council can count on, our residents can count on, that's funded. However, we may see some growing pressure in those programs because of media programs similar to it are being cut at the national level. Made some progress with JEDI initiatives. Tyra and the team launched All Staff Learning Journey, emotional intelligence training, and drafted the JEDI visions and definitions. Infrastructure challenges continue. A good example will be the numerous water main breaks that occur over the last couple weeks, including a essential water use alert because there are so many simultaneous water main breaks that cause the system to drain water and almost lose pressure. So I see those continue to be challenges. We probably need to strategize around that infrastructure because it's showing signs that it's deteriorated, and the funding sources for those repairs may be drying up. No pun intended on the water. Looking ahead, we've got the redesign of the website. That we've been promoting this as a web design, but it's really a change to our digital platform. We're looking at doing council meetings differently, doing our agenda management differently. It'll be on a different platform, different video streaming service. So it's a whole suite of things. And we also launched an RFP for a cemetery master plan, so we'll look to do some work on that in the coming year. And I'll be the handover bikeways design and Vision Zero. Any questions on that?
Well, that's a lot. You've been speaking very, very fast and covered a lot of ground. So I don't know. Is it council's will to kind of go through each of these sections, or I think the department heads are going to come up to the table based on questions that come out, or what was your thinking?
Yes, well, right there on those last 3 slides, I'm giving you an overview and what the strategic direction we're taking. We'll do a deeper dive at the department level. So an example on the Hanover bikeway design, the cemetery, those are being reported under planning and community development. So that's an opportunity to do a deeper dive in that section. Likewise for the JEDI initiatives, Tyra has a slide on there that we can do a deeper dive. So the 3 slides for introductory slides are an overview and to provide an overview on our strategic direction.
Okay. Any questions or comments about the strategic direction in these overview slides?
I just have
Yeah.
a quick question. You mentioned the water main breaks from WSSC. I was just wondering if they would be attending the utility town hall.
We will extend an invitation to them.
Okay, great.
And that's
I just know residents have asked a lot about that, particularly the GHI residents who are really worried about that aging infrastructure and that there seems to be no real plan to replace it. They seem to just sort of be replacing it as they go. And I think if they could have the opportunity to actually ask questions about that, that might be helpful.
Thank you for the reminder. And that town hall is scheduled for February 20th. And also, over the last couple of days, I received a request about a water leak at GHI, and WSSC, while the leak is on private property, responded and assisted with that water leak. And that was over the weekend. Yes.
They do seem to be responding very quickly, which is good, but there seems to be just a lot of leaks.
Yeah, well, when I email and I don't get a response, I keep emailing and I make calls. No, but the team, Thomas, David, very responsive. No. Now, Monica is the director, but a wonderful person to work with. I haven't had the need to call Monica because Thomas and David are so responsive.
I've spoken with Monica a few times over the past month or two about moving forward and working on the MOU between the city and WSSC, because that's an unresolved issue. So I'd like to make some progress with that next quarter. Yes, Member Pro Tem.
Yeah, well, one thing I wanted to clarify, because I thought I saw on the calendar invite change. Is that February 20th or did it get moved to February 18th? There was a change on the calendar invite from.
Oh, it did change? Okay, I'm sorry. Then it's been changed to the 18th.
Okay, just don't want to. Yeah, that's. I think our new constituent services person was handling that calendar invite, and I just noticed that it changed on the calendar, so the 18th instead of the 20th. And then the other comment is just sort of I'm seeing on what's going out on cable TV that I'm not sure people on TV are seeing the slides. So I wonder if, as we're reading through the slides, if we can make sure, because I don't think we're seeing them in the room, but they're not going out on cable TV. And I don't think these were posted, so people who are watching there may not have access to the text that's in front of us. I think that might be something that Tamari needs to do in the Mac room. I don't know, because it was showing on the screen here.
Chandra, do you mind checking? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, before I move on to finance, I want to cover just a few other improvements that we made around the space. You will see that we have new tables with outlets. We've got new carpets. We've got new chairs. So these are all part of the space optimization plan that we strategized over 6 months ago. Along those lines, we've been able to add at least four new space for 4 workstations in the building. So part of the looking to build a new municipal building and doing that space study was how do we get better use of the space. We were able to implement some of those initiatives. So we have new workstations both in the administrative office up here and downstairs in the HR. So significant improvements.
Yeah,
We've
I think the tables are a big improvement, not just for council work sessions and meetings, but for the departmental and community meetings that take place in this room. And there are numerous meetings that take place in this room other than city council. So
Right. The tables are so flexible. Just today, Tyra and Chandra had a lunch and learn event, and we had it set up as a classroom styled, and it's just very functional use of the space and the tables, which is something we couldn't do with the classic wood tables. Okay. All right. So I'll jump into finances. The mayor was concerned about the county deficit, the state deficit, and our own deficit. So he asked for a brief update on our current conditions and forecast. So I'll cover this briefly. We can cover it in greater detail in the finance section, but I brought it up to the top of the presentation just because it's such a pressing issue. Overall, we're in good financial condition. We are stable. We just at this point at the December 31st, we have brought in 75.56% of our projected revenues, and we have spent 55.18% of our budget. So from a budgeting perspective, we're on target. That 5%, there are some payments that are made earlier in the year and they're one time, so that's a normal range to be in. The challenges that we're facing, they stem from deficits identified in 2024, where we projected a $3.2 million deficit. When we discovered this deficit, we took actions in the FY24 year to do cutting expenses, cost management, and vacancy management, and that led to positive net income performance on fiscal year 2024. We've completed the audit and we've completed that year, and we've done our financial reporting, so we have a net income for that year. These measures help stabilize fiscal year 2025 financial standing. For 2026, we project a $4.2 million deficit, so additional cost management efforts will be required. Work to that. I am optimistic that we will close the gap.
on the revenue side, when the pool closes, that's going to have an impact. April, if that happens in April, then we'll lose revenue in May and June.
Correct, and that loss of revenue is going to it's going to overlap two fiscal years. So we're contemplating that loss in revenue and are planning for it.
It's part of the 4.2 million in the next year.
I don't think that 4.2, no, it doesn't include that, and it's a smaller amount. We were concerned that it was going to be a significant amount, and Greg can speak to it when we talk about recreations, but we think it's manageable. And the numbers that I've shared, it is a very brief overview. I have included a memo for your reading pleasure. It's 6 pages. This is going to be part of a future packet, so that council can consider it and approve it as a report.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Councilmember.
Yes, so just as an overarching question, I'm assuming that this 4.2 million, does that take into account the governor's budget that was released and any state funding that we may or that he's projecting to spend or not spend in this upcoming year? And how will you weigh that in?
It does not at the moment, because when we were looking at our deficit, it was looking at our internal operations and making assumptions of what our revenue streams for the state and federal will be. So a good example is our highway user funds. So we receive those numbers. I believe I shared that with council, that we expect that number to go up, and we are going to advocate for protecting the highway user funds. So that number is baked into our assumptions. No loss to that revenue item is being considered in this deficit. The budget, I haven't made my way through the governor's proposed budget yet. There are over $95 million of cuts that is being done to the state budget that's being shifted to the counties and municipalities to cover. Now that one item, I did review that, and it doesn't seem to affect us. That cost or that expense shift that's happening, the governor's asking the counties to cover a larger portion of the teacher's pension contribution. So that's not within our budget. That's a county budget issue. So that's a situation for the county to figure out how to resolve that. So there are I need to spend more time with the governor's budget to figure out how it would affect us. But at the moment, I'm not aware of things that have a direct impact on us. Okay. Okay, all right, the next slide shows the actuals of expenses and revenues over the last 4 years. That's 2024, 23, 22, 21. That's also included in the memo, but I thought it was important that if I'm going to talk some finances, I include more information than just the high-level stuff. Okay, so we now would jump into the department.
Appreciate the multi-year context with year-to-date actual versus year-to-date. So with the general fund revenue, that's exclusive of the ARPA funding?
Correct. That's exclusive. That does not include ARPA money, and it does not include capital and other funds. So this is just looking at general fund. So you can see a major drop from 2023 to 24. So there are a lot of activities there that we're able to have positive net income, but in 2024 we estimated that deficit and we started cutting, doing cost management, and we're able to reduce that deficit and still generate some net income. But that shows you the trend where we're heading into 24, 25, and 26. So we had really good years. 2020, 2021, 22, 23 were good years.
It's from being very, very prudent during COVID, really cutting back.
I think it's a combination of being prudent, but also we had all this cash, $22 million. That
helps. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think the state is figuring out that ARPA money
really has helped, and it helped us to just deal with the situation and recover, so we're in the same or better position than we would have been in, and that's what the ARPA funding was all about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are projects that we were able to do with ARPA money that to do them, whether we could do them without them, would have been extremely difficult. For example, we have two brand new playgrounds with inclusive features. To get one project off the ground, it's hard enough. To do two in a single year, and it cost us over $1.1 million. So those are significant. Those are things to be proud of. Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll start off with Public Works. Brian Kim, you want to join us? So I will start off the 25 slides of presentation on what Public Works does wouldn't be justice. And there's so many things that Public Works does that isn't included here. For example, solid waste, street maintenance, park maintenance, ball fields. They touch every aspect of a resident's life. And many of those things are not captured here. We're highlighting things that are sort of out of the ordinary, like weather events. We had to deal with some weather events. So Brian, do you want to kick us off, weather readiness?
So again, congratulations, Brian, on becoming the director there. That's you with the orange pail there on the overpass, right?
I'm all the way in the back, actually. No, just kidding.
Supervising.
So they're dancing there, but they're looking good. So we had two major weather events. We'll go over some of the photos. And in your agenda package, you can see some before and after, which will kind of clarify some of the pictures on the second page. So we're really proud of our staff. We did have two weather events. They worked really hard to clear the snow. The second one was a little bit tougher because of the polar vortex, so it's quite cold. Nothing was melting, basically. Here we have a hit and run of a bridge, some restoration of the door, and as you can see, the carpet, the furniture, and things like that. So the agenda package will have the before and after photos of the bridge and the door to give a better context.
The bridge is over there in Buddy Attic Park, right?
It's a pedestrian bridge. It was hit by a drunk driver, I believe. Well, we're not sure exactly, but we came in one morning and it was hit. So we restored that. So our main accomplishments here, we submitted a grant for MEA to offset some of the costs for the chiller project in the amount of $250,000. We don't know if we'll be successful with that, but we are positive. We submitted another MEA medium heavy duty zero emissions vehicle grant in the amount of $241,000 to subsidize the purchase of an electric refuse and recycling truck. And staff obtained a certified playground certification inspection. So we're able to do that in-house now versus subbing that out.
Questions?
That's the end.
That's great. Hey, with the chillers and whatnot in the community center, is that the replacement? Is that going to happen like this year, 25?
So the boiler replacement will happen at the end of this heating season. We're going to keep the existing chillers running, push until the next season, because that's a whole redesign. So there's a lot more engineering involved in that project versus the boilers are just a replacement in kind.
And there's a lot of work around Roosevelt Center right now with sidewalks in front of the Aquatic and Fitness Center and the community center.
Yes, sir. So that's we had some leftover money in our concrete, miscellaneous concrete line item. So we opted to fix some of the sidewalks around the city.
It's looking pretty good. Other questions? Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
More of a comment. It came up in the Green Aces meeting last night that the solar farm is complete. We're just waiting on it to be connected, and I think that's just also an exciting thing that's finally done, even or almost to the finish line.
That's correct. So Dr. Robles is spearheading that project. We're really proud of that. That'd be huge for the city as well.
And I think also should save us some money on electricity generation over the next while, which is helpful. I don't know that it clearly not enough to close $4.2 million, but every little bit helps, right?
Every little bit helps. We do expect some savings in transmission charges because the solar farm is going to be behind the meter. We did a good job last year of negotiating our energy contracts. So we're able to reduce our cost for electricity by going out to market and getting better pricing. We're currently out of contract at this moment because the suppliers, the bidders, want information on the solar generation. If we get pricing without the data of solar generation, we would end up paying a higher price because they can't count generation that doesn't exist yet. So as soon as the system is operational and it's been in operations for a few months and we have some data, we believe we'll be able to get some competitive pricing from suppliers for our energy contracts. So that's butter gas. We're saving money on gas. We renegotiated our gas supplier contracts. But in short, yes, we hope to save some money. It's not Ohio energy prices, but we're in Maryland. And just to put that in perspective, the state imports over 80% of its energy from other states. And that's a concern at the state level, what our energy sources are. We need transmission line. We need more generation. Everyone acknowledges those things, but it's difficult to get more generation, more transmission lines in the state.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other day, Council, it was you, Councilmember Pompey, you were asking about the recycling centers and how the area over by Greenway Center needs a facelift. And we were talking about cameras or doing some things by the Public Works, by Buddy Attic Park as well. So what are you thinking about those? There was a proposal, actually, to redo the recycling area over by Buddy Attic Park, right?
Correct. You're talking about a couple of things. We had looked at improving the safety and reducing the dumping at our recycling center. So we have proposed moving the oil collection container behind the fence, and we had other improvements considered. So we haven't executed on that. However, we did receive the oil barrel, right?
That's correct, the new fuel tank. So we got that for free. So we currently have one mobile security unit at the Hanover Parkway area. And we're talking or we're working with IT to get a hardwired system possibly at the Buddy Attic.
Mr. Roberts?
You know, I go down the recycling center often, at least probably a couple times a week. And I tell you the truth, I don't see what the problem is with the so-called dumping or the oil. You know, yeah, people leave containers down there, oil containers that, you know, they should dump its stuff out and throw them in the garbage pail because, you know, everything's there for them to do that. But people are just not going to do that. But I don't see where it amounts to where we have to spend, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars on cameras and all this kind of stuff, or move it behind the fence so it's not even accessible to the people that really need it. I think if we really want to have a good recycling program for those types of materials, you essentially have to have someone that's monitoring it on a regular basis. And then it'd be better. But as it is right now, when I go down there, I mean, the staff must be cleaning it up, I'm sure.
They do.
But I don't see where it certainly hasn't gotten any worse than it always has been. And I noticed that even when the camera was there was still containers that people were leaving down there. So I don't think the cameras are fix any problem. But anyway, that's my opinion.
Appreciate that. Councilmember McKinney.
I remember a few months back that Mr. Driscoll had provided, Mr. Carpenter Driscoll, excuse me, had provided literally images of the people dumping, right? And it had done that in several locations that showed it really was a pretty big issue. And then there was some cost analysis that I believe that you showed. It may be helpful to sort of bring that back so that we can see the amount of time, because I believe it was the amount of time for your staff and then the amount that it was impacting the overall budget to then be able to mediate that. So it might be helpful for the public and for council to be able to see that again.
Okay, we'll bring that back. And you're correct. It does have a cost. Things that get dumped there, we have to pay to have them haul away, or a team taking staff time to clean up, and that's projects that don't get done. The other recycling center where we had the trailer camera, challenges we're having there is that once the trailer gets moved to another location for other security reason, it's somehow people know that it gets moved and the dumping happens, and there's a cost with having that hauled away. That's done by Republic, is the hauler for that site.
Yes, sir.
So we outsource the hauling for that site. And the other challenge we have there too is that some of the recycling material in the donation box gets contaminated with the illegal dumping material that gets sent there. So then not only do you have the cost incurred of having to clean that up, but then you have good product that goes to waste because it's contaminated. The recycling material, or we had a situation where the donation box that we have there that collects clothes and shoes, it was contaminated with trash, and so the whole thing had to be discarded.
Now, is that the one at the lake, or is that the one in Greenbelt East?
That's the one in Greenbelt East by behind the Greenway Commercial Plaza.
So what's the predominant thing that people are dumping illegally over there? Is it
At Hanover Parkway, it's basically construction material. Yes. So and then oftentimes we'll find it inside the dumpster. So when that happens, we actually get back charged a tremendous amount, or we try to get in there. We'll send guys in there if we can to dig it out. We've done that before, so we're not charged. You know, I believe it's about $1,200 a dumpster that we get back charged if it's contaminated. The problem with the oil recycling center is that we're not sure what's inside the containers. It's not always oil. So it can be hazardous material. So the last time we got a proposal to haul out all the illegal dumping that was found at the oil cycling center was, I believe it was well over 10 grand.
Appreciate that.
That's just one load.
But the problem is, if we don't have places like this for people to dump stuff, you know where it's going to go? It's going to go in the drain and in our waterways. And that's way more than $10,000 worth of damage. That's the problem. Maybe the 10,000 is worth it to keep it out of our waterways and out of our, all that.
We didn't spend
But-
that. We
But,
got,
I still believe that if we really want to have it, because you can look at any of the recycling stuff down there, and people have contaminated it. You look in the containers that are supposed to be cardboard, they got all kind of garbage in there, and then you look in where it's supposed to be cans and bottles, they got paper and all kind of other stuff in there. So people they just throw the garbage right in wherever they want. So, if that's the way it's going to be, the only thing we can do is to have, like I say, someone that monitors it and makes sure that people put the stuff where it's supposed to be. Because otherwise, this is what people do. And we can have cameras all you want, and they're still going to do it. Maybe they'll do it less, but I think the Greenbelt East is a different thing. I think that's contractor. If it's building materials, people are, doing renovations and they're throwing the stuff in all the other, various things they have to throw it in down there. Maybe that's a different issue, but
Keep moving
the
along.
one
here.
at the lake, I don't know.
So-
But there's no getting around having to use, staff having to monitor and stuff. You can't do it.
Hey, just one more quick question before we move on, and that has to do with Northway Field. That was a dumping issue. We talked a little bit about putting a fence up with a camera. So any updates on those discussions, or the compost pile and back there with the dumping?
so that was the issue. I think that takes up when the weather gets a little better. We haven't had any real issues, but if we do find issues there, we just snatch it up.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. Kim. Thank you for the update. Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Well, I'll make one note on the concrete work. This is the work that Brian is leading now. It's in addition to previous work that we did. We redid the walkway into the co-op. We resurfaced Centerway and done some concrete work. So it's part of the improvement that we're doing in Greenbelt Center and all these areas.
Yeah, it's part of the FY25.
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir.
Right, next up is Human Resources. We'll come back to Human Resources. We'll jump in with Finance. I don't want to steal Ms. Gaiman's thunder on the first two line items because, there's all this work that you do just to get one letter that says that you did something. So,
Oh, want me to take it? Okay. All righty. Well, you've already gone over the financials, so do you want me to talk more about that or just?
just the audit outcome, you put so much work into the 2024 audit is complete.
Audit is complete for sure. We have one more thing to do, and that's the single audit. We're working on that right now. That's due March 31st, so that's coming up. I have to get to my page. Thank you, because I was going to start with the financials. Anyway, yes, we finished the audit, and we received a clean audit. That's the big thing there. We also received the GFOA Budget Award for 2025. Thank you, staff.
Right.
I'm really proud of that. We completed finance was part of the team that helped with the CBA negotiations with police staff, along with the other folks here. So that's done. We've started the 2026 budget process, and I think we are way ahead of schedule. We are doing it just a bit differently this year, since we know that we have a deficit, a small deficit of 4.2 million. And so we are meeting with everyone early so that we can try to close the gap earlier than we normally do, and also produce the budget book in a more timely way. So we've started that process, and we're making great progress. We continue to produce monthly financials to the directors, coming from our new Edmunds financial management system. I think it's working well now, and folks are able to get what they need. We've submitted GFOA application for the GFOA award for the, I always say CAFR, but it's not CAFR anymore. It's AFCR. It's a new abbreviation, but it's the annual comprehensive financial report. So we should hear back on a decision in the next month or so, and so we will share that decision with you. We submitted the quarterly opera report, and that was for the last period. For the period of July through September, it was due the end of October, so it was submitted on time. We're working on the next one, and which is the one that's due. It was due. Allocations had to be made by December 31st. It must be uploaded into the treasurer's portal in 2 days, January 31st. So we're getting there. We're almost there. Finance is working. We are steadily working, and things are going well.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Will we continue to have to do those quarterly reports as we spend the money? So there's still a couple more years of those to go.
All the
then?
way through 2026. Yes,
Okay.
And probably a month after the last one in December 2026.
And we plan to have programming through that entire period. So
Right.
CARES, the food subsidy programs.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that you've done an excellent job of sort of stewarding us through the ARPA process over the past few years. I'm very concerned that the administration may try and claw back some of that money. Not so much, I think we're in good shape, but some of our sister municipalities may not be quite as on top of things as we are. They probably are, but I'm very concerned about that.
I'm rather concerned as well, particularly when we think about the assistance programs. We have CARES expansion, and so those kinds of programs may be hit. We're just not sure what they're going to do. The good news is the money is in our hands, so it's not like we are looking for a reimbursement of any kind. We have the money, and so right now we just have to make sure that we have allocated, which we have. So actually, I was working on it just before I came up, and it's 56 cents short. So that's just a joke, but it is. But I have to fix that. But the portal is very, very precise. I mean, if you don't get it right, it does not go through. But we're working on it, and we're making great progress.
Thank you so much. We were talking with Mr. Somarona. Yesterday was just an incredible day with that freeze on all grant funding. Did
Yes.
that impact your work?
Well, I got the letter for sure. I received the letter. I shared it with key folks here. Well, we just don't know what it's going to affect. We are watching, we're listening, just to see if anything specific comes out. That's the problem. It's just a letter that says freeze. It doesn't say freeze what.
It was a short letter too. It's like,
Yeah, so it's well, everything is rescinded until the February 3rd, which is Monday. So it's on hold right now.
rescinded it actually. Yeah.
The memo was rescinded, I think, not the
Oh, it was?
underlying. The memo was rescinded, the underlying executive orders were not.
So it's really unclear. It's
Very unclear. That had not reached my desk, so I'm glad to hear that.
It's confusing language because what we heard this afternoon was that the press secretary said that the memo had been rescinded, but not the executive order. So
Right.
it's sending mixed signals. It's like, okay, here's this thing we actually do. They took the letter back, but you're still expected to do that. thing the memo said. So it's confusing. In terms of direct impact, we did experience some of the direct impact yesterday as our senior services coordinator was looking to submit reimbursements yesterday, and the portal was closed. So we couldn't submit that reimbursement. So we have senior services that are HUD-funded program, and we have a USDA grant for composting services. Those are reimbursement grants. So we have to incur the expense and then submit it for reimbursement. And yesterday, none of that was possible.
Right. And I had understood some of our local nonprofit health providers were seeking reimbursement for care that they provided, and everything was frozen. It was a substantial amount of funding. So
it's trillions of dollars affecting the entire country.
I believe, Ms. Pompey, you had your hand up first. Was that about another issue, or did you have a question before we go?
No, I was just wondering if I was going to ask about the HUD funding, and I was wondering if that had been able to go through yet, or if we're still waiting for those reimbursements.
I did not hear that the portal opened. I know Tim reached out first thing in the morning to ask the coordinator to submit that reimbursement. And I haven't had a chance to follow up, but I'll follow up and get a response to you.
Yeah, related to that, because I was on various meetings with people also looking for reimbursements from things, and there was someone thought that it might actually have been that some of those portals close at the end of the month, and you aren't allowed to submit reimbursements at the end of the month on a regular basis. So that might be worth looking into. See if it was just, I don't know about that, but that was something that was mentioned in one of these meetings that I was in today, related to non-city related things, that there was a freeze period at the end of the month to reconcile things, and that it might not open up again until Monday. So I mean that would seem like quite a coincidence, but it is the end of the month, so I don't know.
We'll look into it. Yeah, it does.
We're watching.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll keep watching, listening.
Councilmember Pope.
I just wondered if the portals were reopened, but
Okay, and just one final thought. So with the audit, it seems that as has always been the case when I've been serving on council, we have been getting clean audits. So an audit's sort of like a snapshot, and particularly with grant programs, you don't really, it's not a complete audit. It's you choose 2 or 3 particular programs to audit. Is that how that happens?
Well, they make their selections of what they want to audit. They look at the whole year, the entire year, the various transactions, and yes, and test. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for your good work.
Thank you.
Public Information Office. Welcome, Chandra.
Welcome.
Hello? Okay. Good evening, Council.
So those daily emails, up to 3-5 a day that come to your inbox, that Chandra's leading that effort with obviously support from all the departments, because all the departments contribute content to our newsletters and emails and take.
Okay, so thank you so much for that introduction, City Manager. Good evening, Council. Nice to be before you tonight. Public information, we've been very busy, to say the least. One of the great things that we're working on right now is the website redesign and other items that we're adding onto the website. Just like Josue mentioned earlier today, we finalized the top 4 websites that we liked, and we're going to issue out, created the survey actually today to send out to the community. We're going to send that out actually on Monday. So everyone, please be on the lookout for an email from the City of Greenbelt so that you can participate. It's 6 questions. It should take 3 minutes to complete, to provide your feedback and what you're looking forward to in our new website redesign. I'm so excited. This is my first time working on this type of project, but I'm also excited to hear from the residents to make sure that we incorporate what the items that they're looking for into this new website, and as a new tool, updated tool to communicate effectively with the community and also our residents. The next item, as far as accomplishments, we had several interviews with the Greenbelt Greenbelt News Review, the Fox 5, WUSA, DC News Now, WTOP, and just strengthening those relationships with those organizations. I like to, of course, meet new media and just getting the great word out about the city of Greenbelt, because we have a lot of things going on, especially with the spring activity guide out and all the activities, wonderful events that we have coming up in the spring and summer. We've also, of course, provide audio visual support for our annual legislative dinner, which City Manager mentioned earlier, and the Chamber of Commerce event, being a representative there. We had an event this morning, and just being in the room and representing the city of Greenbelt and strengthening those relationships, because we can't do this by ourselves. We have to work together, collaborative effort, and build those partnerships in order to make things work for everyone, especially during this climate. We also were able, through the wonderful ARPA funds that we received, we were able to get some new fun equipment. So look forward to podcasts. Yes, we are exploring that. Hopefully starting next week, within a couple days, doing a podcast for the Immigration Next Steps with a representative from CASA. So I'm excited about that. That's a new venture, and we're working with our new constituent services coordinator to facilitate that and represent Greenbelt out there in the podcast world. So the last thing that I want to bring up is that I completed the Cornell University Corporate Communications Certificate Program along my day-to-day. It was an 8-week rigorous program, but I completed it, and I believe that I gained more tools in my toolbox for the city of Greenbelt, and just making us shine out there across the region and the nation.
Hey, thank you very much. A lot going on, as you just said. I want to compliment you and the staff and the city manager on just being very nimble and responding to situations. In the past quarter, we've kind of dealt with the whole situation with the Prince George's County Fire and EMS, and that was pretty stressful, just trying to manage the communication piece and messaging and being well coordinated with council, with staff, with the residents. So I think we've made a lot of progress, and we're in a better position, I think, than we were a few years back as far as media relations. It's important.
Thank you for the acknowledgement, Mr. Mayor. It's teamwork. Chandra and the team do a great job of building those relationships. We got connected with our reporters, all the outlets. We're establishing good relationships. So good that it was wonderful to see the collaboration between Chandra and John with a podcast on economic development. So we share that link, and that's they just happen to be talking about it, and next thing you know, they're doing a podcast. Yeah. So
yeah, we were going to view their podcast studio, and they were like, since you're here, why don't you just come in and do an interview? And I'm like, yeah, of course.
Love it. Hey, there is one thing that I'm concerned about. You got to make sure to get my good side when I'm on camera somehow.
Always.
Council? Yeah, Councilmember McKinney, please.
I'm really excited about the possibility of the podcast. Do you have a list or some initial thoughts on who you would like to include in some of these podcasts as of yet? I mean, the question, it's kind of a leading question, so I apologize for that. But if it's city staff, but also maybe some of our advisory board and committee chairs, just talking about that work. That could be interesting, especially also our youth advisory committee. I want to make sure that they get out there as well.
Yeah, we are still exploring at this point, and we're open to any and everything. I believe that everyone should have a voice and should put something out there for the public to see and refer back to. Josue, you want to?
Yeah, you covered that and you introduced that our first topic will likely be the Know Your Rights information session. And speaking with our contact at Casa Maryland, we're talking about doing a public town hall. And the concern that the Casa Maryland representative had that after doing over 30 sessions in the last month and working directly with 4,000 people, his experience was that the more public an event is, the less turnout it has because people are scared. So when brainstorming, we all like the idea of doing a recorded and live streaming podcast session that goes out, and we can invite allies to the podcast and have a dialogue, and then it's recorded, and that could be sort of an introductory to the Know Your Rights information session that people can watch. And then based on that, when they hear of a more private setting like the schools or recreation centers having a session, they will feel more comfortable going and having follow-up questions. So that's what stirred the idea. But the general podcast, the desire comes from much longer than that. We've seen other communities do it successfully. City just north of us, Laurel has a nice room, and a couple others have nice rooms. So, and they're doing really cool stuff with it. And we see it as another avenue, another channel to get our messaging out. We see what we're able to do with email. Almost 20,000 people on email. That's amazing. Or social media, we're just not as cool on social media. So we need to get cooler, and we think podcast is going to make us cooler, especially with that youth advisory committee. So this is the first dab at it. We'll learn something from it and look to grow from there.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Actually, that makes me think of a question. Ms. Andrews, are we branching out into some of the newer social media platforms like Blue Sky?
Actually, we do have a Blue Sky. If you turn to the next page, you can see on Twitter there has been a reduction. People have been leaving X, or formerly known as Twitter, and migrating over to Blue Sky. So I just created probably like a couple weeks ago our own account, and hopefully I'll be launching that momentarily to the community.
We're not sure about TikTok.
Well, that's a separate question. But I think my work project that I support, the Facebook page, noticed, I'm not sure it was an actual decrease, but certainly a decrease in the number of new subscribers on Facebook, that we've lost, some subscribers, and new subscriptions haven't gone up. I think some for Twitter as well, but I think we were just discussing that the other day as well. Is that because people aren't pleased with our content, or is it because people are leaving the platforms overall? And it's a little bit hard to tell, and I suspect that a lot of it is people leaving the platforms overall.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember.
Really quickly to add to Blue Sky, I know that I've been hearing also in the community, like another platform is Fanbase, which it's sort of like an Instagram. So it may be, Blue Sky is very much like X, but Fanbase is more like Instagram. So it may be worth exploring that as another place that people are going.
Fanbase?
Fanbase.
Okay. I'll check with Greg and see look into those accounts.
Hey, one thing, as we're talking about channels, there's only so many hours in the day, only so many days in a week, so many weeks in a month, and so on. So I've always been a little concerned about just messaging and making sure that the city is coordinating all of its different channels. So we've got, the rec department doing things, and we've got the police department, and just so many different channels going out there. So I'm glad that we're coordinating, and there's always an effort to try and pull the content together, because I think when it's coordinated, the messages are more impactful. If it's too scattered, it's really hard to optimize the way that we are interacting with the public within Greenbelt and externally as well.
It is a serious challenge because we have so much content to get out that we're almost cannibalizing our own message because we're getting so much information out. Chandra's been doing great work at coordinating with the other departments on what information's going out. She's having, I don't want to steal your thunder, but you're having conversations with everyone that does marketing across the organization and helping coordinate.
We do have a communications committee. We actually do for another meeting of the minds, just so that we are staying on top of the message and getting it out on time, and that we're all following our designs and communication standards, and that we're maintaining the clear and concise messaging across all outreach.
And it's an evolving conversation. Just today, we had the lunch and learn on branding, and one of the questions that was asked of me was, what are my thoughts on the individual brand by departments? So right now we have 2 official brands, which is the city and recreations. The police department has 3 separate brands within the department. There's one for communications officer, which is dispatch, one for the law enforcement. There's actually 2 brands for law enforcement, the badge and then the blue just regular badge and the non-police badge. So it's got 3 brands that it manages internally. So I know your question is more broadly how to coordinate the messaging, but there's also a brand management component to our work. And we're talking about that there's some departments that have such a strong brand without having a logo or individual identity that is worth considering developing brand collateral for those departments. One that I talked about today is CARES. CARES has a particular service, and there's no logo to go with CARES. Oftentimes folks asks what does CARES stand for, and out of all the acronyms that CARES has, CARES is the only one that's not an acronym. Everything else is an acronym.
Hey. Right. No, I think that's very, very important, and just having that branding and sort of doing our best to aggregate to know what's going out there. YouTube, for instance, I know that in HR, Mr. Martinez wants to have his cooking channel there, right? There's a great YouTube with Mr. Martinez, but so many different channels and being able to manage them, it helps us to communicate more effectively. So, yeah, thank you for your good work.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right, I don't want to forget about HR since you brought it up. So that reminds me, we skipped over HR. Mr. Martinez is back in the room. So, Mr. Martinez, could you join us?
So, Mr. Martinez, do you want to talk about that, the yellow rice recipe in the YouTube that's out there?
Good evening.
Good evening.
The recipe's out there. It's very good. I made it last year with the help of Recreation Department, and Miss Andrews actually helped me. She was my assistant, so it's very good. A lot of hits, very popular.
It is very. I tried.
I think over 1 million hits, right?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
A lot of great successes in HR. I feel that we're fully staffed from the perspective senior team. Just in this quarter, we hired constituent service coordinator, director of public works, community center supervisor, the recreations therapeutic coordinator, and hired animal service officer. So now the animal control is fully staffed. So and that none of that could be done without the help of Dwayne Martinez. So thank you, Dwayne. We've onboarded the Paycor system, so the HRS integration project's underway. Payroll's going live next week. Do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, so it actually went live today with the help of the finance department. So thank Mrs. Gaiman and her team, and also the HR team as well. It took a lot of heavy lift to kind of get this going. So council should have received the email today to actually log in and register. I'm not sure how many people registered, but you see a lot of people taking, I encourage everyone to register, to just check over their personal information because it is a brand new system. So there may be glitches. Stuff may not be accurate as it needs to be. So I encourage everyone to kind of log in that system and take that first look. But other than that, the system is well vast. Is the bells and whistles, have all the bells and whistles, so we like it so far. We're still implementing certain parts of the system. So we implemented the recruitment side, we implemented the HR side, and also the payroll side today. So it's exciting.
Big step forward there. So with, do you have like training? I know there's onboarding, you have the onboarding is mostly online now, or part of it is. And that's been the past 6 months, I guess that's been around, right?
Yeah, so onboarding is still online. Actually, with Paycor, is going to be more intuitive and more streamlined. So basically, when we have a new hire, they'll get all the emails, the flashy videos, the documents, everything will be eligible for them to kind of fill everything out online. And then we will receive the acknowledgement, say, hey, this person completed their document. So it'll be a seamless process, actually easier for the candidate and also the hiring manager. So they'll know each step that, hey, my candidate filled out their I-9, my candidate will be coming in this day. So it's good for communication-wise throughout the city.
Is training videos, or so there's continuing education, or there's certain things that our employees have to review on a regular basis. Is that also integrated into the Paycor?
It is. So we have an awesome learning management system we launched with Paycor on Monday. So that is a part of the process as well. It has over 1,800 different trainings. They even have the ability to, I would say, develop training as well and put it in and disseminate that to staff. Any type of new trainings, old trainings, we could put in that system and going forward for there. So a lot of our annual trainings or I'll say 3-year trainings will be processed through Paycor. So I'm excited about that.
Questions from council? Any questions? Okay. I think at this time, we're going to just pause real quick to see if there's any public comment or questions while we still have everyone in the room. I don't see anybody online. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's keep moving then. What's next, Mr. Seminole?
Economic development.
Oh,
John's doing a great job. I'm intimidated. I was at the State of the Chamber event this morning, which the mayor provided welcoming remarks, and everyone knows John. There isn't a person out there that doesn't know John. Yes. So, John, you want to kick us off?
Yes. Good evening, and great to have this opportunity to share some of what we've been working on in economic development. As Chandria mentioned, it's really about partnerships. Economic development is a team sport. And certainly, a couple of people in one office can't do it all. So we're really dependent upon each other internally and those outside partners to bring in more investment and to help our existing businesses grow, expand, and be successful. Strategic plan launch has been amazing. We've had an opportunity to really reach out to some very iconic companies within Greenbelt who have wholeheartedly been willing to participate in some of the focus groups that we've had. And we're kind of just really getting going with that. They are encouraged, the team, because a lot of the experience that I've had with the strategic plans has been with the county. The county had what's called the Catalyst Study that was launched in 2013, was credited for helping the county to be the leading job creator in the state of Maryland for 6 consecutive years. It was called the Catalyst Study. So I mentioned that to say, you have to have a roadmap to determine exactly where you're going. Otherwise, it's just going to take you forever to get there. So this plan, we feel it's going to be that roadmap that we need. We've got buy-in and input. Certainly, our colleagues internally have expressed what they really want to see in terms of being involved with that. So that's been great. The plan at this point is, and you should be getting a presentation here shortly from the group to kind of give you an update, but it has really taken off from what I'm seeing. We're meeting with them every week, going over a lot of things. As Josue mentioned earlier, we have been out and met with pretty big boy companies in the county, in the city, still kind of county, and the city, and they have given us great feedback. So we're continuing to work on that. The second thing is the roundtables, and I consider that really a success story because when you think about our accomplishments and where we're going, we have to really focus on the industry sectors that are already strong in the county. So what we've determined that needs to be done is to assemble key companies from these segments of industry within Greenbelt that represent our largest GDP. And so obviously it's healthcare. Healthcare represents about 15.96% of our city GDP. So rather than spending a lot of time trying to recruit from outside and bringing in new investment, which is attraction, which is important, it takes a lot of creative effort to help our existing businesses grow and expand and be successful. So one example you can see of where I would like to go with this is the existing model is CCI. You have one company, 12,000 square feet, however many employees they had over there. I think it was 20 or 30, that organically has grown to a 50,000 square foot building that will hire going forward over 100 people in this state-of-the-art facility. That's organic growth. Subsequent to everything they experienced and the success they had, they decided to grow. We're right here in Greenbelt. I met with a company just today, healthcare. They want to double their capacity, double their space. They want to go from 1,200 square feet to a 5,000 square foot office. They're paying about $2,000 a month now. And because of their growth and because of their success, they have a budget for rent now of $9,000 a month, and they need bigger space. They're going to hire more employees, and they're going to grow right here in Greenbelt, organic growth. So that's kind of the focus. And so when you bring these roundtables together and you start kicking around ideas, discussing issues, things like that, you kind of decide exactly how you want to pursue that. I'm sorry, go ahead. Someone.
Well, I just related to that, what is the status of the space that CCI was in Franklin Park? Is there something new coming into that?
Absolutely, great question. We had a meeting with Franklin Park Group a week ago, and that came up with Lori, the operations vice president. At 12,000 square feet is being advertised already with a brokerage. They've had some tire kickers, but no one's really committed to it. Interestingly enough, that was one of the spaces that I suggested to this group today. It's a healthcare space, healthcare related. It's already had that facility and kind of outfitted already somewhat. And, that the rent that they are looking at is significantly lower than 9,000 a square foot. And they told me over at Franklin Park that they are willing to cut that space up. So you're going to have the ability to actually put two businesses in where one business was. So again, to my point, organic growth. Partner with Greenbelt GBA, you all were there. Festive, very incredibly exciting event for their first time, over 100 participants in that endeavor. And so we're working very closely, very seamlessly with GBA although we're separate organizations, we have a very seamless strategic partnership in place that are allowing us to really do some interesting things. One thing is to collaborate on training programs. And so if we can continue to do that through some funding sources that we've identified, or we can continue to grow our companies and get them training and bring in some good resources for them. So GBA, the partnership's going really well, and we were glad we were a part of that endeavor, the gala. We started the newsletter. And so it was mentioned earlier that the CRM is in place, up and running. We have about 800 companies in there, over 900 contacts in that system. We've segmented it by category. We're able to extract that data by industry, by just about any kind of query you want to put in, because we've got a lot of ways we can go on that. Mayor, you gave us a request this week, and we were able to pull data out of there very quickly on how many restaurants, what the revenues were, so on and so forth. That's what we expect to get with the CRM. When you all are looking for specific information for addressing, in your case, that was legislation that you had to respond to, we were able to pull the data out for you on what's here in Greenbelt. Now, we pulled a couple of sources on that, but ultimately when we get this whole system all built out, we'll be able to depend on just our real-time data that we have in our system. Everything we touch, everything we do, all the projects we are working on albeit business attraction, retention, expansion, everything's in there. All of our business visits, all of our phone calls, all of our emails. So if we're looking at a company that's leaving, and the question is asked, well, how come we didn't know they were leaving? And we go into the system and you see that we've touched that company 10 times. A lot of companies won't tell us they're leaving because they simply don't want their employees to know. And you get a surprise. But if we're touching them constantly throughout the year, through that newsletter, through direct contact, we can make out really well there. I'm going to try to go faster. November, the partnership with EPG. And as I mentioned before, partnerships is very important.
Employ Prince George's.
Employ Prince George's. Employ Prince George's is our workforce for the county. That whole endeavor with CCI, with that partnership with CCI, with the Beltway Plaza space, where the space is with the computers and doing the training and whatnot. That's a good example. And the last bullet also gives a second example. I'll touch on that for a second in a minute. We're talking about the expansion of the CCI facility, and I've already spoken on that. The organic growth that's happening is what we want to duplicate throughout the city. And lastly, this EPG CCI launch, where this facility partnered with EPG, Employ Prince George's, to put a healthcare training component in their facility for bringing in more skill or even helping folks in the city skill up to work in the largest industry sector that we have, which is healthcare. Again, 16% of our GDP. So what we're doing is we're accentuating and we're growing and we're building upon what we have. In terms of attraction, when those calls come in for particularly government contractors, I've identified 150 government contractors right here in Greenbelt that we've put also in a roundtable kind of group setting, so we can address what those issues are, what their issues are. How can they get more business development opportunities? How do they get access to better chances to get contracts? You bring in subject matter experts to talk to those folks around the round table, and then whatever information you get, you can share it along with the other companies. I'm sorry.
John, I could talk about economic development all day long.
I know, Bear.
Really could, because it is so important, and you're talking about some of the progress that we're making, really, really important progress, but what it amounts to is resilience, because we're going through some difficult times. There's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen over the next 4 years, and there's been a big change in our retail in Greenbelt. So by having you and Cyan on staff, it means that we can actually be better prepared to cope with those changes through the business retention, and also being able to provide information to folks that are looking around for office space. And I mean, you see a lot of folks like that at Chamber of Commerce events.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, definitely.
Partnerships. Yeah.
So, thank you for the good work you're doing. I just two questions. One, the county, was it last year? We cut the ribbon on that building that they built on Edmonston Road. The clinic is going to be moving over here. I'm kind of curious because I haven't seen any motion on that. I'd like.
I talked to the health officer. Well, he actually is not there anymore. He's moved to Nashville.
Is that right?
Yes. So they're, I guess, in the process of getting another health officer for the county. But my discussions with him right before he left, I think he left last week, and a few months ago was that of course, the county bought that building.
Bought the building. Yeah.
Oh, yes. And there's a fence around it now. You've seen that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They fully intend to go in there and make a nice little Taj Mahal out of it, and be able to do some great things in that building. He was very excited about what's going to happen in there.
Dr. Adule, I think is his name.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to continue to speak with them about that. Edmonston Road is a jewel, I think. Here's for this quick reason. So Edmonston Road, if you don't know, is in the hub zone.
Yes, it's a hub zone for now, and for the next few years.
Yeah, it should stay a hub zone because of the demographics over at Franklin Park. So it should stay a hub zone because of that data should start coming in. Nothing's much going to change in that area, I don't think, in any short time. But in that hub zone, there's about 4 office buildings there. There's actually one in 9200 right adjacent to the the visitors were the office at Franklin Park.
Parks on.
It's been bought by a gentleman who's doing some international work. It looks like it's empty, but it's not. There's actually people in there working. I happen to know because when I was with the county, the gentleman that owned it before that, we were trying to help him get some permitting and stuff done. He sold that. And so we're trying to get a meeting with that person to find out, you're in there, but that's a multi-tenant building. What are you going to do with all the other offices? So that could represent some building inventory for new small businesses right in the hub zone, which means if you get a contract and you are operating in a hub zone, because of the demographics there, you are privy to set aside opportunities for contracts.
It's a big deal. You know, we had a small technology company over there in the hub zone, and they were doing a lot of things with the city, and unfortunately, they actually ended up moving. They moved over to Tyson's Corner. So, I mean, they're doing big business. The other thing is we had a small victory with the soft opening of the Sunrise.
Yes.
It was just
Yes.
great. I think they're going to do really well. So when are we going to do the official ribbon cutting, the official opening?
So yeah, we talked about that with Aliza. She's and her whole family. It's a family business. They have three other restaurants, well, 3 total now, 2 in DC. All have been very successful, as you were there eating very authentic Caribbean cuisine. The plan is that they want to do a great grand opening, probably late March, mid-April. And
That's
the reason they
fantastic.
didn't have it this time was because it's Carnival, and everybody who is really involved with Carnival is in Trinidad, and all the steel bands are gone. And when they do their grand opening, they want to do it big with the steel band and what have you. It's going to be huge.
So
We're
are they
gonna
open
have to
now, or
promote
are
that.
they open in the interim, or they're gone for a little while?
They are. We've got a little issue that occurred, I understand, today that had them to close for a minute. I'm going to investigate that tomorrow.
That's why you have a soft opening. To kind of work it
Right,
out.
exactly. So, yeah, but they're going to do real well here, and everybody's pretty excited about Sunrise. We're going to get more restaurants down here.
Well, thanks for the update. Mayor Pro Tem, please.
Yeah, it was in the the extended information in the packet. But what is it looked like you'd been to a conference about the Main Street, Maryland. I just wondered if what your progress is on that, and how feasible and advantageous that looks for trying to get that designation for Roosevelt Center.
Absolutely, great question. So we did attend the Main Street Conference in Frederick. It was a great conference. We learned a lot. I did some work with Chestertown when they were getting their Main Street. So it's a process. It takes money. There's 2 designations. One is a full Main Street. The other is the affiliate. There's some requirements. One's you got to have a person working as a Main Street manager. That's about $50,000 a year just for that person. I would think the Roosevelt Center, just looking at it, it would be perfect as a Main Street. But there's some investment that has to happen. There's a lot of work. We can join as an affiliate. It's about half the cost. But it does allow us to bring in some additional resources from the state, gives us a lot more exposure and possibly some funding opportunities again. So we're investigating that. I understand my predecessor did a wonderful job of beginning that conversation with DHCD here, and that they mentioned that he was very active. Kevin was very active in really pushing that conversation, but certainly we can revisit it, and we have revisited it, so hopefully we can get that conversation restarted.
Yeah, thank you for the update. Really appreciate your good work. I'm going to have to try and move this along, or else I'm going to lose a bet with Mr. Samarone.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Good evening.
Hey, good evening.
I'll jump right in for the sake of time. I think it was mentioned this evening, we released the RFP for the Cemetery Preservation Master Plan. They're due February 14th. Currently working with Megan Searing Young. We're getting a lot of questions, so we'll be posting those to our website hopefully by the end of this week. I will say there's some concern whether we have sufficient funding to do all 3, but we'll broach that subject when we get our proposals in. We assisted in obtaining the POS money, program open space money, if you will, for the indoor pool decking project. We completed a review just recently. We presented it to council, the 30% plans for the off-site road improvements, and Mr. Stigwood will be presenting those to the National Planning Commission. We actually had a meeting with the county to sort of address some of our comments, and then I think we'll be meeting again with them. Just to have an understanding of the position that they took and some concerns that we raised in our letter, and they've committed to working with us to have a better understanding of that. We worked with the Friends of the Greenbelt East Trail and ATHA. ATHA was the lead on this grant application, EPA grant, Environmental Protection Agency, Community Change Grant for the Cherrywood Lane Complete Street Project. Also included the Greenbelt East Trail, some improvements in the sidewalks near the National Park. I will say that rounds were just announced, awards last week, I believe, and we were not in that. They have not spent all that money, though, and they've indicated holding that until all applications in. So we'll be monitoring to that, and also then looking at other grant opportunities that may become available as well. On the code enforcement side, we've been very, very busy. We investigated a total of 116 calls for service this quarter, logged in 92 cases, and how the differentiation between those numbers is any call is what we call an action case. It escalates to a code case if we confirm a violation. So basically 9 code cases that we of the 116 actually were violations. And so then further down, we issued a total of 49 citations, totaling almost $21,000 and across 41 properties.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The code enforcement piece, we've had so many challenges between Charleston North and some of the apartment developments with the heat and so many other things. So with the residential code enforcement, there's the commitment to try and inspect all of the apartments. Is it once every 2 years?
No, it's annually. Our
Annually,
rental
that's what
is
I thought.
annually. The only exception to that is Franklin Park. We typically get to 50% a year, so it takes 2 years to do 100% of Franklin Park, just purely due to its size.
And you had developed a way to do some of it virtually as well.
That was during COVID. We've gone back to in-person. Unless somebody has a special need or so forth, we will work with them to special accommodate them. But almost all of ours are now in person.
And with the citations, it's really the citations occasionally end up going to court. How are we doing with that? Just in terms of
We are seeing quite the lag, if you will, on our site between sending our citations into court and receiving court dates. So we actually are engaging with Mr. Deluche tomorrow to just have that discussion with him to see if he can assist us in identifying what the lag time, if there's anything we can do to address that.
and I've got 2 other quick questions. One, Greenbelt Station connecting path.
Yes, we are working on that. It has been delayed. It's been delayed due to my time, as well as transitioning to a new consultant team. Unfortunately, those that worked on it are no longer there. So bringing them up to speed. We are about to cut a check to renew our erosion sediment control plan with the county, and we had to make revisions to that. I'd say I'm about 70% through the procurement documents, and we need to finalize a few things on the plan, and we'll be submitting that. Hopefully, our goal is by the end of February, beginning of March is when I really hope that we can submit our 90% submittal to the state.
Mentioned EPA grants and a number of other grants. So some of those are federal grants. Do we have some exposure in that area if the federal government decides to freeze grants again?
Well, you do in terms of there was really a plethora, if you will, of introduction of federal funding over the last couple years, if you will, especially related to transportation projects. We haven't heard anything come down the pipeline yet, but we are monitoring to that closely. You know, our TAP really is funneled through the state, and so we're not overly concerned regarding that. Our other federal project is the Vision Zero, but we continue to have dialogues if that's moving forward.
Very good. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, just a question about the Vision Zero. Is that one where we have to spend the money and then get reimbursed? Or is that some one where we get the money up front?
I can follow up on that. I believe it's a reimbursable.
Okay, so that means because that makes it more at risk of freezes or other things that come up.
Right. Any other questions? Just one thing. I want to, you've got so much on your plate. I appreciate it. I always have. Would like to find a way to get back to some of these discussions around the Greenbelt Road corridor. I was talking with the local executive director of ULI, and they are willing, even possibly interested in coming back and kind of following up on some of the work that we had going a few years back. But it's still a priority, and since it's between Berwyn Heights and Greenbelt and College Park, it's a nice collaboration, and we have to all work together.
Right, and as you know, State Highway did apply for grant funding for that project, and we all supported it. Unfortunately, they did not receive that grant, and we're currently working or in discussions with county representatives to discuss the new CTP, if you will, pilot project where you can submit projects for, and we are advocating with the county to include that, and we're sort of working with them. But that dialogue is just getting off the ground since, fortunately, it was just announced, but the turnaround time is very short.
ULI, they are interested or willing to come back and talk to us again. So, any other questions? Also, we do have a comment from the public. I think we'll take that.
Good evening, Bill Orleans, Greenbelt. In all the discussions the last several weeks about the lack of heat, I've not understood what I have perceived to be a degree of tolerance for the owners of these properties, how difficult a job they have and whatnot. Correct me if I'm wrong, Greenbelt City Code, the county code, I think probably state statute requires anybody who rents an apartment to someone that it be habitable. And if it's not habitable, despite the economic condition of the owners, so-called, of these properties, they should be held to account. And most recently, Monday night, I think, but elsewhere in the stories in the News Review and in previous discussions in this room, it seems like we're giving them too much allowance for the difficulties these property owners are having. Anybody who buys a multifamily property who's undercapitalized and can't afford to install new boilers when they're needed should not be allowed to continue to operate those properties. So my question is for the community planning director as well as the city manager, to what degree are we holding back on our fines? And if a property is remaining uninhabitable after weeks, of course, it's been a nice day the last couple of days, but if it remains uninhabitable after weeks, we should do more than simply fine them. We should sue them and get them out of the ownership of these properties. What are we doing beyond the modest fines we assess them?
Thank you. Mr. Samaron, the case study of what happened with Charleston North, that balance between enforcement and fines and trying to keep our residents in place, not having them, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bill Orleans, I agree with you in principle. The owners have an obligation, both a social contract and legal contract, to ensure that those units are habitable and safe and they're dignified housing. The challenge that I've had to wrestle with, and as you would have seen in the Charleston North example, is that we have a lot of authority. We can condemn a property. We can take. In the case of Charleston North, we took measures to remove the owners, to have that property removed from the owners. That's as extreme as you can go to take someone's property to ensure the safety of those residents. So we're not afraid to go to the last resort of separating an owner from their property. And we've demonstrated our willingness to do that. The challenge that I've had to wrestle with is balancing the legal authority that we have versus looking to solve a problem. We care about solving problems, and we want to work collaboratively with property managers and property owners to ensure that the problems are fixed so that residents can have dignified housing. There's a point that we run out of patience, and we've forced the citations, and we will go to whatever extreme measures we need to ensure that the issues are fixed. With these two properties that are in question now, we're now finding them, and we've given them deadlines that if they don't meet those deadlines, the fees are going to double and continue to escalate, and we will continue to push the matter until it's fixed. If it means that we have to go to court to get those matters fixed, we will do so. If it means that we have to file some other legal actions with council support, obviously, because I can't take such drastic measures without the vote of council, we will do that, or at least I will recommend and request council's authorization to do that. So what we're discussing now with the properties is revoking their rental licenses.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Ruby, please share with your staff how much we appreciate all the hard work and the long hours that they put in. So many things on your plate. Let's see.
And then moving up, police department, public safety.
Chief Bowers, welcome.
Thank you, Chief, for joining us.
Hey, Chief Bowers, how you doing?
Good evening. How are you, Mayor, Council?
Good.
Oh, if I did hear about.
Go ahead.
I'll try to be brief tonight. I know we're kind of pressing for time. So, number of different things. The fourth quarter of the year for us is a pretty busy time, particularly with a number of our events. We start off the quarter typically with our Trunk or Treat event, which fortunately we had a lot of support this year, and we had some council members participate, so that was good to see out there. Then we went into our Shop with a Cop, and then our youth basketball game, which was a lot of fun. Great turnout for that event as well. So a lot of community events that we do. We also do some food giveaways in partnership with Franklin Park through Thanksgiving. So that's a busy time for our community policing unit. As the city manager also already said, one of the things we set out for as an internal goal was to get our collective bargaining agreement completed and in place before the turn of the year, which we did, and that was a huge win for us and something that we have not as an entity been able to do in the past, so that was big for us. We completed a number of capital expenditures for technology. One of the things that's not listed, we did get the first part of the LPR systems up. We're just completing integration with MCAC. They had a meeting this week with the vendor and the county to make that data transfer happen. Once they've got the servers in place, that data transfer will be happening, and we'll be able to go live with those cameras. So that's just right around the corner for us and should be finished by the end of this quarter. And then we'll start into the next phase of cameras. So that's right around the corner for us. And we hired a third employee for our animal services unit. And so they spent the end of the year in training with her, some facility improvements that they've been working on. And so that's been busy for animal services to get back up to speed and get themselves back to be fully operational again.
I appreciate that update. You mentioned integration with the county, and well, at the last Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments Board of Directors meeting, we got an update on how they are working to have a real-time data dashboard on crime throughout the entire region. And I asked the question about coordination and whether or not all of the departments are reporting incidents in the same way. So how are we coming along with that? And while I was sitting in that meeting, I kind of looked back at our Greenbelt dashboard to see how it was working.
So we just, during the quarter, I recall the COG sending over the paperwork to take care of that data transfer because it comes out of the CAD system, which is part of Prince George's County's computer system. So they're pulling the data directly from there.
Because there's a concern about the accuracy, and we want to paint a realistic picture. If it's real time, to the extent that it's accurate, people will trust it and go to it as a resource. So
Yep.
you're pretty confident that the numbers coming out of Greenbelt will be pretty accurate and timely.
The way that they'll pull the data, it will come from the CAD system directly. And so because everything in Prince George County, every agency in the county uses the same CAD. So all of our data will be reported the same way. Different agencies, different CAD systems, different coding systems, they may look a little different, but everyone in Prince George's County will be the same.
CAD is computer assisted dispatch?
That's correct.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, we've had a lot of resident concerns recently about Greenbelt Police interaction with ICE and ICE enforcement actions. And specifically on Monday's meeting, not just a resident, but currently just a resident, Jay Davis, brought up the concern about the MOU that we have in place with the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, and a concern that could require us to start to participate more and do things with ICE that we don't want to do. Could you talk a little bit about any interactions there and just what Greenbelt's Police Department's policies are in that regard?
We have a very specific General Order 675, which pertains to cooperation with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. We do not assist with immigration and customs enforcement as it pertains to immigration status warrants. If something is wanted as a wanted for a criminal charge, they're wanted in the state of Maryland for robbery, as an example, and ICE happened to be involved in that investigation, that's a different thing because it's a criminal charge to the state of Maryland. If it's strictly federal immigration, we do not have any involvement. As our participation in the Marshals Task Force goes, our officers involved are on a part-time basis with the team, and they are only assigned to cases that are Greenbelt-centric, which means the crime or the suspect lives in the city. And those are only for crimes, and we can choose at our discretion what our officers focus on. And if for some reason the Fugitive Task Force gets redirected and their mission is changed, we have the right to withdraw. So we're not going to be in a position to be enforcing immigration-related events.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that reassurance.
And I would like to emphasize the withdrawal part. That was a question we had when we were looking to sign the MOU. And that was a question asked, and we ensured that we had an exit strategy there that we can withdraw from that MOU. So with 30-day notice, we can withdraw from those activities.
Councilmember McKinney.
We were at a recent meeting talking to some other jurisdictions, and they were talking about wanting to get a crisis intervention team going. And I'm just curious if you have some particular data that you can share, because I know that we're particularly proud to have one of those and one of the few or only in the state. If you could share some of that.
We are, if you know who they are and they'd like to reach out to us, we'll be more than happy to help anybody try to get going. It is something that we're extremely proud of. We're the only municipal agency that operates a crisis intervention team like we do. There are some counties, particularly Anne Arundel County has a large team, but it is very difficult, and it really takes finding the right people. More than anything, you need a good program, but you need the right people with the right passion to run that program, and we were very fortunate to find Rachel, who brings a lot of knowledge and passion to the program.
And I would say that in addition to finding the right people, Rachel does great work. It does take a team approach. We have Liz in the CARES division. There's a lot of collaboration to deliver a successful program.
Councilmember Pompey.
I just wanted to mention that we had a presentation from our DEI officer on the second phase of our DEI project, and one of the findings of that was that there was a very high degree of trust in the community has within our police force. So I just wanted to congratulate you. That does not exist in every community, and I know that's something that you all have worked at. I think that all the hard work that our officers do, particularly our community policing officers, all the things you guys do, the shop at the cop, the youth basketball game, I think, that has paid dividends. So just congratulations on that great work.
Thank you. It's something we work really hard on.
Two quick questions. One, the question about grants and vulnerability. We do have some federal grants that are coming through the police department.
We don't really get any direct federal grants. We get all of our grants through GoCap, which is the state kind of distributor of those federal grants. Our largest grant is our State Aid for Police Protection grant. The others are all pretty small through our traffic safety programs, but we don't have any large substantial federal grants.
And the final question has to do with capital needs. Throughout ARPA, we were able to catch up and reinvest in some technology. that we really needed to put into place in order to, so that we can optimize the personnel that we have. And it seems we've done a pretty good job with recruitment. Is that continuing?
We continue to work very hard on the recruiting. We've just completed some testing. We have 6 applicants in background right now, so we're hoping that'll return us back to our full complement in the next academy class. But when you talk about capital investments, technology is always advancing and changing. So just when you think you've kind of got yourself in a good spot, along comes the next latest and greatest tool. And the one thing that I think everybody is aware of is AI. And as AI gets better in its ability to parse through data and analyze data at a really rapid pace, combine multiple databases, AI is in different things, and it's starting to be introduced in law enforcement. And it does a couple things for us. It makes us more efficient, and it kind of streamlines how some of our work can take place, and it gets our officers out of the paperwork mode and back onto the road faster. So as new technologies evolve, it's always something we're continuing to look at. How can we make ourselves more efficient and get our police officers out from doing paperwork and back out on the road where they belong?
Very good. And this is sort of a dumb question, I guess, but just in terms of the paperwork piece, there's a computer in each police car, and the officers, they don't have a handheld device. So how much time does the average police officer spend on paperwork, actually, writing things on paper?
Administrative time can vary, but it's about 30% of their day is spent doing administrative work, when that includes completing reports and roll call and other things like that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your good work.
Mayor, I'd like to add one thing to the accomplishments. We did have an opportunity to pilot the automatic stop sign cameras, so
Oh, right.
very successful. We got really nice video from that initiative.
We keep getting asked about that. When are we going to implement it for real?
Hot for it.
I have reached out to our city attorney to help draft legislation and present back in front of you in the next few weeks. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Hey, let's move on to Recreation Department. Welcome, Mr. Varda.
Thank you. So we've completed about half of our MBOs. We have 28 MBOs, and we're about halfway done with those. The others are in progress. Some of the highlights from the first quarter to this second quarter is we finished the Spring Hill Lake play area. The fence is up. We're hoping we get some nice grass this spring and summer to fill in some of the dirt areas. The second Learn to Earn program is taking place right now. We have 15 participants in it. The graduation date is March 29th. And we are thinking we're going to have summer internships. We're going to be able to place some kids in some paid summer jobs. So that'll be good. Nicole DeWall's working hard on public art. She was able to, the Motiva property was able to put up some public art there, and she's working on another piece with Terry, the 7010 Greenbelt Road, and she's also working with the Braden Field rehab project, and we're going to rededicate Braden Field to Roy Braden, and we'll have a public art piece for there as well. We filled 2 vacant positions. Trevin Green is our community center supervisor, and Priya Gardner is our therapeutic recreation coordinator. The park rangers work with Public Works and the environmental coordinator, Kevin Carpenter Driscoll, and they put on a really, really great kayak program down at Buddy Attic Park. It was so well attended. We were able to find funding to purchase some kayaks and a trailer. So they're already planning some more activity on the lake later this spring and summer and into the fall. Our summer camp guide was completed and it is posted. Registration begins, resident registration begins February 10th. The non-resident registration will be a week after that. Thank you to PIO for putting that together and working on the spring activity guide. It never stops. It keeps coming and going, you know. And so without their help, we wouldn't be able to do that stuff. And we're happy that Circus Camp returned to the summer camp program. After a 10-year layoff, we were able to get Greg May, who is a Ringling Brother Barnum and Bailey circus clown, or was, and he comes here and teaches class for us. Kids love it. So happy to answer any questions.
That's a lot of stuff, big department. How many employees are there in recreation department?
We have 22 classified employees and about 150 non-classified, and it probably goes up to about 250 in the summertime.
That's amazing. That's a lot of jobs.
Yes. They're very important to what we do. We couldn't do what we do without our non-classified staff.
Hey, I'm wondering about the big projects, the field rehabilitations, Strom Hills and Braden Field.
Yep.
How's the timing looking on those projects?
No, met with the contractors and the project manager last week, and it looks like the start date, you're going to see some movement this March. The retrofit field lights will happen in March. They'll start pulling up the grass and regrading Strom Hills Park in March, weather dependent, but that's when we're planning to start.
Okay, so Strom is first, and there's a fence will go up around.
Fence will go up around the turf field, yeah, the Bermuda turf.
Walkway around it and everything.
It'll be, there'll be, the fence will be in a mow strip, a concrete mow strip that surrounds the field. And it'll be 8 feet high. It'll be somewhat closer to the path to protect the people on the path as they're walking from any flying balls or anything like that. So it'll surround the field. It'll have multiple gates and a maintenance gate as well.
Braden Field piece, when is that going to begin?
Probably around the same time. That's more, work will be done more on the infield, baseball field infield, pulling in the softball field fence, so it'll be strictly Little League. The goal is to make that what we call Braden number 2, which is the old softball field, the prime location for Little League play, to make that into a really nice Little League venue. Yeah.
So the various leagues that play there, between the two areas, they've all been accommodated, or kind of things have been worked out somehow.
We've notified the stakeholders. We're going to work with the stakeholders to find them practice space. Hopefully at the local schools. It's going to be a tough summer for our youth with the indoor pool being closed. Our work on all the fields. So. It's going to be, we're going to be displacing a lot of youth sports programs this spring and summer. Hopefully we'll be back open and ready to go in the fall. But it's going to be much better. You guys have heard for years how they want to improve playing conditions and improve the surface, and it's going to be much better when we're all done.
Representative.
Well, one thing I wanted to note was that we had spoken just recently about the Aquatic and Fitness Center, the big project there, and that there's the town hall tomorrow night, correct? 7 p.m. Is it here?
Tomorrow night,
Yeah.
7 p.m. in Chambers, yes.
So if residents watching have particular questions, if they're concerned about that and want to ask about that, they should come and ask questions tomorrow. But what I noticed in the extended material, it was talking about offering the possibility of offering free swim lessons to Spring Hill Lake Rec Center after school program participants, and it looked like one of the limitations was going to be space in the pool, which will be only made worse by the only having one pool for the spring and summer. Is that I would imagine that most of the participants in those after school programs are Franklin Park residents. Again, is that something where you've reached out to see if could swimming lessons be done in the Franklin Park pool, just with staffing by Greenbelt Recreation to help alleviate some of those things? Because I think that's a great idea. I'd love to see those free swim programs offered, and it seems like it would make logistics a lot easier too if you don't have to transport those kids from Franklin Park to the center for the swim lessons.
Well, our original, when we put our MBOs together, we knew we had the pool issue, but we didn't know what the timeline was. So the plan was to transport the kids over to the Aquatic and Fitness Center. Can we work in this Spring Hill Lake pool, we're not sure. We've contacted Legit to see what the liability issue is on that. Can we move our staff from our facility, our Greenbelt facility, into a private facility? We're exploring that. It's possible, and if we can, it's something we're going to probably do. Certainly with the swim team, but we're trying to go through that process now to figure out what our programs are going to look like in the outdoor pool. There's many different users that want to do different things in the pool, and then try to put that puzzle together is going to be complicated.
And it seems like that's even, if such a partnership can be developed, in the long term, that seems like that has a lot of possibilities too, even when we're back to having our usual two pools, because I feel like that's a complaint I've heard from many parents, especially looking for swim lessons for their kids. There aren't enough spaces for for them to sign up, and it'd be great if we could if we had more capacity to offer more swim classes.
You have to have a certain certification to teach swim lessons
Yeah, I
as
know,
well. And we have just the amount that we need. So finding or getting more people trained to do that would be another roadblock. But it's not insurmountable. It's something that we can do and look into.
As I think there's clearly demand for that.
Yeah, and another MBO we were talking about is, offering free swim lessons to Greenbelt residents, between the ages of like 6 and 8 years old, and then they can graduate into the other programs afterwards. We don't want money to be a barrier to learning how to swim. So we're looking at that and what the costs would be on that as well. But we got to get the indoor pool reopened.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's going to be that's a big hurdle to get over.
Right.
You mentioned 70110 Greenbelt Road. So is that apartment development moving ahead?
I'm sorry, you asked that again?
I think you said something about public art at 7010 Greenbelt Road. So
That's
project's moving
Greenbelt
forward?
Square. That's what they call Greenbelt Square, Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next to the Armory.
That was
Yeah.
referring to.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't recognize that the name Greenbelt Square.
Yeah, it's finally moving ahead.
Yeah, they are currently in county permitting, and I expect they will be coming to us shortly for permitting, but they're moving ahead. And like Greg said, actively working with Nicole on art piece, and also working with planning staff on some of the other commitments they made to us during development.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Varda? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Just real quick, February starts all our Black History Month events. This Sunday, we have 2 events. One at New Deal Cafe, which is an art exhibit by Shamar Higgs, and we have an artful afternoon as well at the community center this Sunday. So
it's collage making, I believe.
Collage inspired by the work of painter and muralist Aaron Douglas, Harlem
Sounds
Arts
like fun.
Guild.
I'll probably do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And next up, Greenbelt Cares. Bark, how are you today?
Good. Hello. Good
Welcome.
evening. Good to see everybody.
Nice to see you.
So the accomplishments that we've had this last quarter, a lot of it are community events. So during the flu clinics, the holiday food box distribution, the Winter Wonderland, where children were provided clothes, coats, and a toy. The Community Education and Workforce Development Coordinator hosted the GED celebration for those who had completed their GED last quarter, and he's had several more achieve their GED. So we're looking forward to a nice spring celebration again. They kind of finish as throughout the year, and then we bring them all back together to celebrate that. I began serving on the new Maryland State Commission on Juvenile Justice Reform and Emerging Best Practices, which is a mouthful. That used to be the DJS, the Department of Juvenile Services Advisory Board, and they've now made it into this commission to look at juvenile justice issues and how we can improve the juvenile justice system. And I'm serving as the co-chair of that state commission, so I was very excited to be picked to be the co-chair for that, and then chairing a couple subcommittees on rehabilitative services and those types of things for youth. So, oh, thank you. Yeah. So we're hopeful that the state is becoming interested again in youth service bureaus, and maybe some funding will be coming back towards Greenbelt Cares and the other bureaus in the state. Again, to keep kids out of the juvenile justice system is our goal, so that they don't end up in it in the first place. We worked with the Greenbelt Aquatic staff and provided some training on de-escalation. If they have customers coming in or clients coming into the aquatic center and there were some conflicts, one of our staff went over and really worked with their staff on how they might handle those situations and how to de-escalate, because it can be a lot. You're a young person, you're working at a desk and somebody is upset about something or upset about the price of something or something they thought happened there. So we are trying to work with other departments to provide those types of trainings if their staff are needing it. And just staff have been taking a variety of trainings on suicide prevention, traumatic brain injury, opioid use disorder, handling ethical issues, just always trying to make sure staff, professional staff are trained and up to date on the latest and best practices. I will say currently, the main thing my staff is focused on is what's the new climate that many of our clients are living in terms of immigration issues and things like that. So trying to come up with a plan to get good information out, working with Giselle, the new constituent services person, to make sure that people in the community understand their rights, what's happening, hearing from the schools, what they're doing. So I would say that's our biggest focus right now, is just trying to make sure people have good information and trying to calm nerves, because it's a very stressful time if you're an immigrant and living in, this close to DC. They feel very threatened.
Definitely. So number of grant-funded programs coming through your office, directly and indirectly, the food distributions and whatnot coming through Capital Food Bank. And so have you just, with everything that happened yesterday, you're beginning to probably look at some of the vulnerabilities? So
yeah, so
how
we
does it
haven't
look?
heard from the Capital Area Food Bank, and we haven't heard definitively from, I guess, the White House what programs will be impacted. I will say we did hear that the HUD grant, that the portal was down in terms of being able to put in our next invoices and things, and I don't think we've heard back that they're opened up. The chief mentioned GOCCP, the Governor's Office of Crime Control Prevention. They sent out emails saying they're uncertain what portals are open and not open. I know Medicaid has been impacted, and that those portals have not been open for people to be able to process Medicaid payments and to go to doctor's appointments and those kinds of things. So I think there's just still a lot of confusion out there about what's happening around federal dollars coming into communities.
Do we get any reimbursements for services that we provide from the federal government?
So
Not even HUD, but
Yeah,
some
the
of
HUD
social
grant
service,
is the main one.
Okay. Questions or comments? One thing, I was at there was a health fair over at the Beltway Plaza a couple of weeks ago, and the George Washington University nursing program was over there. I was talking with them a little bit, and they had some master's level nursing students over there, and they were interested in maybe collaborating. I've got contact information. I'll share it with you or Crystal.
Great. Yeah, we get students from there for our clinical internships, but I don't think we've had any nursing interns. Yep.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Right, next, information technology, Brian Kennel.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening. How you guys doing?
Good, good.
A lot of times the back end of IT is boring, but it's a necessity to have to keep day-to-day city technology functioning. Our team works pretty hard to keep everything up to date and secure when it comes to all that. We try to highlight some of the stuff that might be a little more fun for you guys. We added security cameras to the armory so we can move the trailer that was there to other locations like the recycle centers and stuff like that. The next two accomplishments are kind of linked together. We added city fiber to all the old town buildings and completed the network switch connections to all the buildings now, so they're all lit on fiber and ready to go. We've implemented some new Wi-Fi security measures to keep everybody safe and secure. We have a work network and a guest network that are totally isolated. And we've been working in conjunction with the police department to implement the Verkada system, it's in progress right now. And also working on the RFP and redesign for the city website.
That's fantastic. And I know just as a council member, we get a lot of emails, and some of the security and the training that you've put out there is very good. I got an email today. It looks like one of these PISH tests or something.
It was. I reported it, and I got a little pop-up that said, yes, that was a test. You passed.
That's very gratifying, I have to say, when you
It
get
wouldn't. I couldn't get the
So
PISH.
now you don't have to
thing
let us know if you didn't pass. Just
It comes to us if it doesn't pass.
Yeah.
And we
I got one of those, and
re-release
I
if
clicked on
it's
the link and
a threat.
oh, no, actually, I didn't do that. But yeah. Questions or comments? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. All right, now report on grants. We've major successes with grants.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes, thank you. So we continue to receive notices of award on grants that we filed back in 2024. We got 5 additional grants, which brought our total to approximately $4 million for FY 2024. In 2025, fiscal year 2025, so far we submitted 13 grant applications for over $13 million. And of those, it's still early in the season, so we haven't received responses on very many of those awards. But what we have received totals up to $40,000 so far for this year. We are in a busy season right now with earmarks and bond bills. We are pursuing those. Of course, the recent activity on federal funding may affect what is available through the earmark process, but we'll continue to monitor that closely. And we're continuing to review and streamline our process of notifying the departments of what grants are available and working with them to help monitor deadlines and prepare applications as necessary. So we have done some postings on SharePoint now that they've been able to use, and I think that's been much easier for them.
Yeah, I think that's really important, just being able, because, I mean, there are opportunities that come up, and sometimes, our staff, they're just so, so many things to do, and having a message, just prioritizing, hey, this is an opportunity, we really need to go find a way to go after it somehow. That's important.
In addition to that, and not only the notification, but also building the foundationals to be able to compete for grants. And Carrie's done a wonderful job building a library of all of our files. Most recently, we started updating the profiles of senior staff so that there's bios ready to go that she can just copy and paste for what she needs. And we'll continue to build out that library database.
It's powerful. I can submit a headshot if you want.
Welcome.
But only if you're good side.
Yeah, good side.
So I had a question because this came up in the Green Aces meeting yesterday. I understand that we heard about the charging and fueling infrastructure grant and we were not awarded that one.
No, we were not.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that because that would have been exciting to be able to do some infrastructure. Are there other opportunities that we have on our radar for other EV charging infrastructure things coming up? Is there anything you know about?
We have a state opportunity that one of our partners just emailed us about, and they were going to vet the site to see if it qualifies, and that's the Buddy Attic site.
Okay.
So I can forward that information along, but that happened just last week.
Okay, but we do have enough to finish from ARPA money to finish the chargers at the library, right? That was separate from the CFI proposal?
Correct. That was ARPA
Okay.
money. That was $200,000 that council set aside for EV infrastructure. So we have that, and we have a little bit of money from MEA, bond bill money for IV infrastructure. So we're looking to designate that funding for Buddy Attic as base funding. We got pricing from Buddy Attic park as part of our CFI application. So had we been funded for the CFI application, would have installed EV stations at Buddy Attic, Spring Hill Lake. We had a couple other sites in that list.
Okay, and so it's $4 million in 2024.
Yes, yes. That is the total as of December 31st of 2024.
Well, that's a nice chunk of our budget. What is that, about 4%?
No, it's we have a $38 million budget up general fund. When you add in our capital budget, we're at 44 million, so close to 10%.
It's great. If we can up that number a little bit, that's doing a great job. Yeah, if we can just get that up to
Just a little more.
We have instituted a program where each department has goals for the amount of grant funding that they bring in based on what was what we received in the prior fiscal year, and we under Josue's direction, we're slowly increasing that each year. So we're going to continue to seek to bring in more funding through that through those opportunities.
It's getting very competitive within the departments.
There's a trophy. We need a trophy to pass around somehow, right?
So we sure do have a lot of buildings and a lot of infrastructure. So what do you do with if there's a request, some of the federal grants, they want to know what the indirect cost is or the overhead?
So we don't have a direct. There's two ways of getting your overhead covered with the federal government. One is the de minimis, which is your 10%, or you have a directly negotiated overhead rate. We do not have a negotiated rate. So if we do apply to cover our overhead, we would take advantage of the 10%. We currently are not applying that overhead expense to our grant funds, but we have that in mind as a way to, because there's a lot of overhead expense that just isn't being calculated in our grants, right? We have tremendous expertise from the team on project management that doesn't get billed anywhere, so we're just absorbing that.
Okay. Hey, thank you for your good work. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Right. Next up is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Tyra is joining us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Alrighty, jumping right in. So accomplishments from the last quarter. Last time we talked with each other, we were putting together employee town halls to discuss the draft vision statement and definitions that the Jedi Action Team created. So we completed 3 of those town halls, took feedback from our employees, and are now working on putting that into a spreadsheet so we can make refinements with 2 of the drafts from our employee feedback and our community feedback. Our action team is now starting off the year in their 3 subcommittees. Those subcommittees are our Education and Awareness Subcommittee, Employee Engagement Subcommittee, and our Strategic Planning Subcommittee. So our education and awareness and our employee engagement, they will be focusing on bringing basically our employees together, whether that's to just boost morale or learn about something. You've heard us mention like our lunch and learns today, that Education and Awareness Subcommittee would be working on quarterly lunch and learns over various topics of their choosing. We discussed the putting together and launching the all staff learning journey. So that has been launched. We have had 2 so far with a pretty good turnout for both of the trainings, being the first 2 trainings in this series. Also, we have had our senior leadership participate in a training, kind of like the emotional intelligence, but it was more so of a crash course because we did some goal setting. We talked about emotional intelligence. We talked about communication. And then we have also, as you know, completed phase 2. Tri-C came back in December, gave a report. They are making the refinements to that report, and as soon as that's available, we'll go live with that. And that is all I have for y'all.
Questions? Comments? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tyra.
So,
All right, that covers our slides. We'll take questions. There's a lot more information in your packet about activities. Also, we make sure to share as much information with council through a weekly report. So there's a lot of information through the weekly reports. It just doesn't. It's a lot to try to squeeze into the meetings. Last quarterly report, we tried to squeeze all of this in an hour, and we just left so much stuff out. So now we're at 2 hours.
This has been a very comprehensive update, and to see and to hear and to have a chance to ask a couple of questions. I think it's really meaningful for council just to have a good handle on everything that's going on, but also for the public that may be listening or watching now, or with YouTube, someone could tune in 6 months from now and get the information that they need. So many things going on in the city of Greenbelt. It makes me proud.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're proud of the work that we do. I'm proud of the team that we have. We do incredible work, and we appreciate council's support in our endeavors.
By any chance, is there anybody online waiting to?
There's nobody that has a hand raised online.
Okay, any hands raised in the room? Any comments? Hearing none, let's move on to information items.
Okay. A question for council. I know we have a closed session.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Question for council. We had we talked a little bit about policing activities, and there's a further discussion the mayor wanted to have that might be subject to a closed session. Mayor, do we need the police chief, or was your question answered sufficiently about police and deployment of police services with regards to immigration enforcement?
Well, yeah, I brought that up just to for council's benefit, particularly for the new members, so that they might have a better understanding. Briefing. Are you prepared to give a really quick summary of?
Well, I'm prepared to provide what our operational standards are. We talked about policy, General Order 675. We have a couple conversations scheduled in the near future. I think if there's anything more in depth than that, it would probably be best if we take a list of questions and come back with some responses after being vetted with legal and the police chief. But if
that might be the best way to go. The hour is kind of late. It's 10 o'clock. So,
thank you, Chief. Appreciate your willingness to stick around.
So you have information item.
Yes, one information item I have is we're in conversations with scheduling a Know Your Rights session with elected officials. That topic is specifically for elected officials and what policy frameworks can be discussed, adopted by local elected officials. I want to work towards organizing that event for not just for the 3 council members that we can have, but also there's an interest from other elected officials. I spoke with Mayor Benitez in Casa Maryland that there's elected officials that are asking for this information. So we thought about organizing an event for all the elected officials. City of Greenbelt can host it. If that's of interest to you, Mayor and Council, that we can host it and make that available to elected officials in the area. This is building on what the county chair Jolene Ivy hosted a webinar type of format on the topic, and there's a desire for more of that type of presentation and then discussion on how to coordinate resources and activities.
That sounds like a good idea. It could either be a for cities kind of an endeavor, or it could be a PGCMA kind of a activity. But we could certainly host it here.
Yeah, well, I don't have any purview over the PGCMA. Certainly, I can speak with the 4 cities, but I was thinking that to expedite things, we can do if council is amenable to it, we can say we will host it. We would convene the meeting under the banner of the city and bring in CASA representatives, make the room available, and make the Zoom or Teams resources available for people to log in.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I think PGCMA has a meeting coming up, this week or next week? So yeah, it seems, the executive committee, I believe, is actually meeting very soon. So I think that sounds like something very feasible. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, so you want me to wait for PGCMA after their executive meeting?
Well, why don't you look into the availability of the room and the partners? CASA, are there other partners that are involved, or is it just CASA?
So to expedite the event, it would be the city, what the city is available in terms of the availability, the 3 council members that would be able to attend. If more than 3 want to attend, we would have to make that a public meeting. I think that might defeat some of the purpose of the discussion to speak openly and collaborate. So I was thinking that if the 3 council members can provide availability, and I can work to secure the dates that CASA representatives are available, then we send that out, and whoever can join can join.
Okay.
Well, I'm certainly interested in doing that, so I'll connect with you about my availability doing that. I talked to Alex. I know Mayor Benitez and I have talked about this, and I've had council members from Hyattsville reach out to me about it as well. So I think there's a lot of people who are interested in just knowing what we can do, and I did volunteer to help convene. So
Excellent.
I'll give you my time, and then I can figure out how I can help from my end as well.
So, you know, if this was convened not by the city but by CASA, would that be a way of holding the event but not avoiding, still keeping confidence, so it's not like a public Greenbelt meeting, but instead is an event?
I think if you're all able to attend public meetings or public events,
Yeah.
I think it becomes an issue if you're talking about what can the city do from a policy perspective. Then you're talking about city activity. So if the way that the conversation's being structured is there's a know your rights piece in the information that's being shared with the public, then there's a discussion about what can local municipalities do to provide better protections for our residents. I think at that point, we're talking about what can the city can do and actively work to do. I think then at that point, we enter the area of talking about city business. I think
City
there'll be
policy, yeah,
city
city
policy,
business,
and I
yeah.
will be cautious of having more than 3 members in that conversation.
Let's work that out. I have
Now,
some
I'm
resources that
I'm also open to having a public meeting. I think but that's a different level of conversation. Also, I understand the need and the importance of it, and since we're already working with CASA to do a Know Your Rights webinar podcast and then coordinating community sessions on Know Your Rights, it seemed feasible for us to just add one more event to that partnership, and it will require minimal coordination. If we can also not do that and just let PGCMA or other bodies schedule what they need to schedule, and those things are already happening, such as
Yes, they are.
the event that County Chair Jolene Ivy hosted, and there's other events similar to that being scheduled.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll proceed with securing a date and work with Jenny and others Councilmember Pompey, to send out the invitations and get that on the books.
Got some resource materials that may be helpful as well.
That was my informational item, and you have 3 informational
Yeah,
items?
I've got 3 items. I just wanted to share. There was a Chamber of Commerce meeting this morning. I was able to give some welcoming remarks, but I was talking with the school superintendent, and he's open to, if we'd like to invite him to a work session, he's open to doing that. And it's been a little while since we've talked to Dr. House, so I was just wondering if council would be interested in pursuing that. We can invite our Ace and also Jonathan, Mr. Briggs, but it gives us a chance to talk to the administration directly. So is that something that the council is interested in?
Yes, I think that's great.
Okay.
I think it would be a good idea to figure out what specific topics that we want to discuss and make sure we have the right people also there, because I'm thinking, for example, we've been sort of struggling with this, getting an MOU to use the school field and things, and so I wonder if we might take advantage of a work session on that topic to bring in maybe it's Greg Varder in the Department of Rec, maybe it's bringing in even people from Greenbelt Middle School or something to talk about that. Just take advantage of having a meeting to actually get some work done on some of those issues.
I think that's a great idea, and I specifically asked him about that. He was open to that. So I think that's one topic. Also, the reports that are out about academic achievement in one of our schools and just in general. Those are both topics.
Yeah, and I think if we prepare for those topics and then make sure we invite the people, the right people to have in the room to have that discussion, I think that would make that work session more valuable.
Not that it would be more or less valuable, but that's specifically what I asked him about. So, and there's some other, we haven't really talked calendar. There's some other work sessions. We've been getting a lot of correspondence from GHI. I'm thinking maybe we need to talk with them. WSSC also, we need to somehow, which is connected to GHI, this issue about the water line replacement. It's something we need to do. So I'm just looking at the calendar. We're coming up on the budget season, so once we get into March, and Mr. Summerone, when does the budget season start?
It starts, we introduced the budget to council at the March 24th meeting, and then we have our work session on Wednesday, March 26th.
So I'm trying to just identify some sessions or discussions that we need to have between now and then, because once we're in budget season, there's not going to be time to really do meeting with stakeholders or talking with folks. So just bringing that up. The other real quick update is I did get a chance to testify on Senate Bill 55, the MAGLAV bill that Senator Washington had put forward to prevent public funding. That went pretty well. I'm not sure if it's going to get out of committee, but I was able to testify. The other bill that was up right before that was that Senate Bill 324, the Priority MML bill. And didn't testify on that, but I was there, and it was challenging. There were a lot of people that were there in opposition. Some people from the beer and wine industry and local government. So although MML did a great job of presenting the case, there was a lot of pushback. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, a point on the bill regarding the MAGLAV. There was a bill that's scheduled for hearing tomorrow that we did not submit testimony for, but we're going to send our comments to Delegate Eminent Domain, correct? So the bill that you testified today is for the federal funding, the state funding for MAGLAV project. There's another bill in the House that's regarding the eminent domain authority that MAGLAV wants to have or think that it has for infrastructure projects.
President of BWRR was there testifying in opposition to the bill. He was very forceful in saying that they weren't asking for the resources, but they just wanted to have the opportunity if the money was there down the road. So it's kind of confusing. If you can send out a summary or a letter or some testimony, we can circulate it with council and get something in.
Yeah, so in looking at the MAGLAV testimony, it's all relevant to the eminent domain legislation that's in the House. We're in opposition of MAGLAV, and for the same reasons, they should apply to the...
Who's the sponsor on that bill?
Delegate Ann Haley.
So what exactly is the bill doing? Giving them eminent domain because they claim they already have it?
They claim to already have it. The bill would take away any eminent domain authority that they think they have.
Yeah, so they were defined as a franchise, a rail franchise, and the rail companies were able to get that because they characterized themselves as being a rail company. They were able to get the franchise, which entitled them to eminent domain.
Not a railroad, anyway.
Well, that's not what the federal government said. So this bill would actually remedy that.
Right, would limit their ability to claim eminent domain authority.
Okay, well, if there's no further business to be had, let's move into a brief executive session.
So we need to go into to a special open meeting first.
Yes. I hereby call this special meeting of the Greenbelt City Council to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
We always do that after the quarterly meeting, Rodney. It was in the packet.
Having an executive session right now?
Yeah.
Why did Amy leave?
Because she needs to get home to her kids.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you read your packet, Mr. Roberts?
Could you finish calling the roll, please?
Well, maybe the public would like to know what it's about.
I'm going to read the motion in just a minute. Here.
I'm here. So the purpose of the special meeting was to go into an executive session.
Yeah. I move that council go into closed session in accordance with section 3-305B1 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of the Public General Laws of Maryland. 1, to discuss the appointment, performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. 2, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. And 3, to discuss public security if the public body determines that public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, including 1, the deployment of fire and police services and staff, and 2, the development and implementation of emergency plans. The purpose of this meeting is 1, to address personnel matters over which this public body has jurisdiction, 2, to consult with staff about pending or potential litigation, and 3, to discuss the deployment of fire and police staff and emergency plans. In addition to council, City Manager Josue Salmoron and Director of Human Resources Dwayne Martinez will be in the closed session. Note the council will not return to open session following this closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pope. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so can we shut down the video feed and the Zoom feed?